Would you prefer to talk to your kids about the birds and the bees or hand the task over to a teacher?
In New York, it's now mandatory, for kids over the age of 11 to be taught about sex at school. The ruling has created heated debate and sparked a serious sex ed conversation at home.
The Australian school system currently has no standard curriculum for sex education, and like it or not, studies show around half of Aussie kids are already having sex by the age of 16.
So should kids be learning about the birds and the bees along with their ABCs, or is it a lesson best left to the lounge room? To discuss the issue, we have commentator and mum of two, Suzanne Mostyn, live with us in Canberra. Here in the studio, joined by sexologist Nikki Goldstein. Hi, ladies. Sue, should kids get the sex talk at school or at home?
Look, Cars, I think very much both. Primary responsibility lies with the parents to lead the discussion. But, you know, the school can actually play an adjunct role, like an add-on, value-adding kind of role. And I think also for kids who have parents who are embarrassed or awkward or feel ill-equipped to actually have the sex talk, then the school can actually provide much more than just a join the dots. We need to have myth busters and fact providers, and so schools play a really important role to do that.
Yeah, Nikki, you're a sexologist. You have a different kind of life to the rest. You take your parents to Sexpo, for goodness sake. Is 11 years old too young to be learning about sex seriously?
Well, I think when we look at the stats, and it is said that 50% of Australian teenagers are having sex under the age of 16, so I don't think it's too early at all. And I think we need to look at what's relevant to their stage of development and their age of life. So we're not going to go and teach an 11-year-old about Kama Sutra, but there are various things that they do need to know. And when we look at what material they're being exposed to these days, we need to counteract that with adequate sex education.
Suze, the question always is what age is appropriate? I mean, you're coming just from a mum's perspective. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think knowledge is power, and I agree with Nikki that you can never start the conversation too soon. It has to be age appropriate. And I certainly know both my boys just last term had sex education at school. The 7 and 8-year-old kids were actually told basic terminologies, hygiene, safety with your body, those sorts of messages, the sperm, the egg. And then the 11 to 12-year-olds, my older son, was given the whole context of how we came to be here, about your body changes, about puberty, about all the things that affect us into adulthood. And there were Q&A sessions, gender-separated sessions. It was fantastic. And I think we shouldn't leave it up to kids just to Google it in these so-called enlightened times.
Yeah. Nikki, critics of this concept, and there are many, would say that if kids know more about sex, then they'll be more inclined to go ahead and do it at an early age. Is that a concern for you?
Well, I think the research actually shows the opposite. It shows that adequate sex education can increase the age at which kids first have sex. And I think also too we need to be looking at, are we more concerned about the age that they're having sex, or should we concern about their safety, that when they do and if they do have sex?
Okay, it's an interesting one, and everybody has different opinions on this one. Thank you so much, Nikki. And Suze, thank you too.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Can I ask you a favour?
Yes.
Well, no, because I don't think my mum I'd never got the proper birds and bees conversation. So when you're going to do the talk with your boys, would you mind if I come over? I'll just sit in the background. I won't heckle.
You've got kids of your own. What did you do?
Yes, and if you could have a conversation with them as well, that'd be helpful. It's certainly a controversial issue, there is no doubt about it. We'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Tell us what you think. Head to the chat room and we'll share some of your responses a little later on in the show. yahoo7.com.au/morning.